As someone who travels full-time, I get asked a lot of questions. And today we're answering 5 more of the most common questions I get about traveling full-time. Number 1, why do I always travel alone? And as many of you know, right now I am in my 60th country, which is Argentina. And 90% of the time when I travel, I go by myself. 10% I either go with someone that I've met or one of my friends from back home. And there's a reason for that. Most of the times while I travel, I stay in hostels, which are basically large travelers' hotels where people share rooms, they're usually discounted, and the crowd is usually younger people. And in my personal experience, when you travel by yourself, you're way more open to getting to know other people, go on spontaneous adventures, rather than if you're with your friends or a significant other. When you have comfort with you, you usually don't seek adventure and you stay in those comfortable things. And honestly, I've met my best friends while solo traveling because I was alone, they were alone, and we've ended up going to multiple different countries together. I've gone to their home country, and it's amazing. And number 2, how did I fund my initial trip? Now, this trip that I'm on right now started about 15 months ago. However, it wasn't my initial trip of backpacking around the world. That started in 2019 when I went to Europe for the first time. I went to Europe for 1 month and I traveled to 7 countries and I spent about $3,000. But I don't think you're talking about that one. I think you're talking about this one because it's much more massive. It's been a longer time. I've gone to more places. And well, I basically documented the whole thing before going. I sold and donated every single item that I owned except for what's in my backpack. So I sold my car, donated all my clothes. I even sent one of you guys my computer. I sent you guys my monitor. Along with that, I paid off all of my student debt, which totaled $30,000. The only reason that was possible was because I was working 3 jobs at the time. So I donated and sold everything I had. I paid off all my debts and I created a job that would pay me while I traveled. Which leads to question number 3. What were those 3 jobs? And it's kind of a mixed bag. Well, I've been working for my entire life. Ever since I was 14, I had 2 jobs at all times, totaling to about 15 or 16 different jobs. But my previous job when I was back in the US is I worked remotely for New York State. I worked in a communication role. I worked for about 1.5 years, and I was even promoted twice to the level of a manager. Additionally, with that, I ran an eBay store where I resold old vintage video games, where I would literally go on the weekends while I was in university to thrift stores, buy their old video games, and then resell them on eBay. I know it sounds crazy, but I did that. And job number 3 was this, making the videos. And it's really interesting because so many people will confront or combat that whenever I say this is my job, but you have to realize I've been doing this for 5 years. I've made thousands of videos, and now combined with Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, we have about 1.9 million followers within our community. But trust me, it was not always a job. And the reason I left the United States when I did was because it turned into a job at that point and it was able to sustain my monthly budget while traveling. Number 4, are there any countries that I've been to that I would live in? And as many of you know, because I've discussed this before, right now I'm at the point in my life where I don't want to settle down anywhere. I just don't want to. I think I'm young enough to where I can keep moving around. But yes, there are definitely a couple countries that I would live in. And in no particular order, I would say Japan. Japan is one of the coolest places that I've ever been to. It has by far the best food that I've ever had in my life. The society runs really well. Everyone functions properly. There's so much respect in the country. Number 2 would be Indonesia. If you've ever been to Indonesia, this will resonate with you. It's impossible to be in a bad mood in Indonesia. There's so much sunlight, there's so much greenery. This isn't Indonesia, but there's greenery, and everyone is doing outdoor activities, and everyone's in really good shape. Number 3 would probably be Thailand. Thailand is kind of the oddball of this list because it's a little bit different. It's the perfect combination of chaos and organization. There's so many fun things to do in Thailand that's why I love it. It's also relatively inexpensive to live there in Thailand as a foreigner. And yeah, a lot of foreigners go there. There's a ton of activities, so I really like it. If I had to give some places in Europe, I'd probably say Portugal or Bosnia. And number 5 is a really direct question. Which country is the one that gives me free healthcare? Well, I mentioned in a previous video that the country I'm in gives free healthcare to foreigners and tourists, and that really set off everybody, especially my fellow Americans, because healthcare is very expensive. But the country is Argentina. If you're a foreigner or a tourist in this country, you automatically get free healthcare. and actually have a doctor's appointment in a few days where I'm going to go get a checkup, and I'm going to get a couple shots that I've been putting off for a while. But this isn't the only country that does that. There are tons of countries around the world that give free healthcare to tourists and foreigners. The United States is not one of them. But I've used healthcare in different countries. For example, when I was in Morocco, I had to go to the hospital. I was in the emergency room, and 24 hours in the ER only cost me about $30. And it would have been free if I went to the public one, but I went to the private one. It was a little bit of a higher standard, but again, $30. But do you have a question that I did not answer? Well, let me know in the comments below, because that's exactly where I took these questions from. I want to thank you for watching this video, for asking the questions, and for all the Patreon, Instagram, Facebook subscribers, because you guys make this channel possible, and I really do appreciate it. Everyone, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for stopping by, and always remember, travel's a privilege, so enjoy every second of it. See ya.